could you use either chat or the Q&A feature to ask your question? Thank you. Hi, friends. I just noticed that some of you are introducing yourselves, but I'm seeing that people are talking to all panelists. I actually did this myself already today as well. There's a little blue box where it says to, and it says all panelists. If you click that blue little drop down arrow, the arrow and the drop down will come down. And it says, there's a choice that it says all panelists and attendees. So if you do all panelists and attendees, then everyone will see your introductions. So if your introduction just says all panelists, could you copy and paste your message again and share it so other attendees can enjoy all the great messages I'm seeing? Thank you. I appreciate everyone posting again. I've hosted countless Zoom meetings and I still make the same mistake of not checking that. So thank you. We'll be starting in about 3 minutes. This is your first time on Zoom, Darlene? That is amazing. Welcome. Yes, Jason, I feel like you are a Zoom expert. We might have you teach the next class. I know you use it a lot. There's always something to learn, Jason. Just I learn new things every single time I host a large meeting. The learning's never done, which is fun. It'd be boring if we didn't have new things to learn and grow into. I see Deborah is asking if this training is going to be recorded. It will be recorded. It's also going to be live on Facebook. So we'll have people joining us from there. And if you need to reference this training again at any time, you can go to the Rio, Texas Facebook page, or we'll be putting a link in the Zoom area on our on the Rio, Texas website. So you'll be able to find it there as well. We're about a minute from starting. So I'm going to go ahead and ask my other hosts to unmute their videos. Anytime you're running a larger Zoom meeting, it's always great to have a good team behind you, people who can help make sure other things are running in the background. And this is my team. We're just at 10 a.m. Central Time. I do want to say hello to some very special guests. We have some friends joining us from South Africa today. And so as I start referencing Central Time and things like that, just know I know that we have people outside of the Central Time Zone and outside of the United States. So there are some people who are chatting in the chat box, which is great. There's a few people who are chatting to all panelists. When you're chatting, look at where it says to. There's a little blue box there. If you click the arrow, a drop-down menu will come down, and you just want to make sure your chat says to all panelists and attendees. That will make sure that everyone can see what it is you're saying, and not just myself, Andrew, and Nicole. And if you have any questions, I noticed that we have someone with their hand raised. If you can direct that to either the chat box, if it's just a general question, or we do have the question and answer feature. Nicole and Andrew are going to be working with the question and answer feature. Anytime there's a question that they feel like would be good for me to go ahead and answer live, they're going to go ahead and note that. And we will have times where I check in with them on those questions and answers. So I have 10:02 Central Time, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to start by letting Andrew and Nicole introduce themselves and let them know what they do, what they're doing today, and what they do for the Rio, Texas conference. Nicole, would you like to start?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Like Jozlin said, my name is Nicole Lobby. Today on this webinar, I'll be assisting with answering your questions in the Q&A and in the chat. So you won't necessarily see my face, but I will be there behind the scenes helping out today. And as far as the conference, I am one of the administrative assistants for project development, implementation, and support for our Mission Field Ministries office.
Thank you, Nicole. Andrew?
Hi, I'm Andrew Bradley. I'm the Assistant Director of Communications and Technical Ministries here at the Rio, Texas Conference Office. And mostly today I'll be monitoring Facebook Live, and any questions that come up there. And I'm glad everyone's here.
I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing because that would be a good idea. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Jozlin Parker. I'm the Director of Communications and Technical Ministries for the Rio, Texas Conference Office. One of the reasons why we decided to go ahead and do this Zoom training is because we've been getting a lot more questions lately about some of the specifics and some tricks and tips for the larger Zoom meetings, but also there are people who are needing to learn how to schedule, and they have a lot of specific questions about the scheduling aspects of Zoom. So we decided to go ahead and take the time to put this training together. We are going to be going through a little bit at a fast pace. I want to take it as slow as I can, but I also want to cover as much as I can today. So if you have any questions, please put them in the question and answers area. Both Nicole and Andrew are great with Zoom, and they're helping me out because I know that they're going to be able to add a lot of wisdom to this training. So we're going to just jump right into this and start talking about Zoom licenses. Zoom, you can use Zoom for free. Anyone can sign up for a Zoom account and you don't have to pay anything. But a free account has restrictions. You're going to, it's only a free meeting account, so you can't do webinars. This is a webinar, and I'm going to get into the specifics on that in a little bit, on those differences. So you can only have a Zoom meeting, and you can only meet for up to 40 minutes. And the time limit is a big thing. If you are a nonprofit working with an education, within the education field, a lot of times, some of the tutoring groups and stuff like that, or if you work with a school district, you can actually get a free Zoom meeting license. And that's something you do through Zoom. I've never actually done that, so I can't really speak to that process, but it is something that's possible. So a free account, it's a meeting license and 40 minutes, and that's all you get. When you get a Zoom license, generally what you're buying is a meeting license. A meeting license has 0 time limits. You can meet, for example, come October 3rd, we're planning a 9-hour meeting. You can meet as long as you want. You can have up to 100 people join you, and you can schedule as many meetings as you want, as long as you don't have 2 meetings at one time. So if you used one license, you could use that one license to schedule 10 meetings in a day. And I've had those days. When you look at a webinar license, it's similar. You don't have a time limit, and you have a 100-person limit. So your kind of standard Zoom licenses are both 100 people and unlimited time. The differences between meeting and webinar are actually a little simpler than sometimes it can feel like. When you're looking at what type of license you're going to get, most people go ahead and get a meeting license. There's kind of a feeling at once you get to a certain number of people in your Zoom meeting that you probably should go ahead and move to a webinar. But really what you need to look at are the features that come with the meeting and webinar when you decide which license you want to purchase. I have run a Zoom meeting with 426 people. So it is possible, and you can have larger meetings with a meeting license. One of the biggest differences between a Zoom meeting and a Zoom webinar is something that you might recognize here if you're joining us in the Zoom webinar platform. In Zoom webinar, we do not have a way to just let everybody show their pictures and their videos or speak. Now, you'll notice that we have Andrew and Nicole. They both have their videos on, and they can unmute their mics and talk anytime they want to. That is because I have set them up as panelists. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more when I show you how to schedule a Zoom meeting and a Zoom webinar. So I'll just say that Nicole and Andrew, they are panelists, and that is why they can show their video and audio right now. If you are not a panelist, I can actually click over and give you permission to share your video and audio, but that can only happen if a host or a co-host gives you that access and invites you to do that. Really quick, I see that we do have a few people with their hands raised. If you have any questions, if you could put that in the Q&A feature. If you don't know where that is, you're going to look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and there's just something that has a Q&A. So if you could direct your questions there, Andrew and Nicole are ready to answer those questions. Thank you. So, so your webinar isn't going to give you the ability to show everybody's photo or everybody's video, and that is a big thing you lose. It's actually why we've had meetings that are 426 people, because we wanted the ability to see everybody's video we can. And at a time right now when we don't get to gather in person, that is an important feature, and can be worth the little extra work it takes to manage all of those videos. because I mean, it can be a joy to just be able to look into each other's faces. With webinar though, you get a really great feature, which is the question and answers feature. And that's why we're in a webinar today. Question and answers feature is great because you can keep those questions and answers organized. So if you have something like this webinar where you're trying to give a lot of information and the interactions are mostly going to be in the form of question and answers, then you're going to want to move to a webinar. Now, you do have to purchase a separate license for webinar. And I have seen a lot of people go ahead and use Zoom meeting, save the money, and use the chat function for the question and answers. So that's a wonderful way to save money and to still connect to your community. So I'm going to really quick go ahead and share my screen because I want to be able to kind of show everybody what some of this looks like. Zoom webinar and Zoom meetings, they both allow you to share your screen. It's a great way to, let's see. Andrew, can you tell me what you're seeing? I just want to make sure I'm showing the right thing.
I see your outline for this webinar.
Okay. I shared the wrong desktop. That is also a trick. It can be something that happens, which is another reason it's nice to have people like Andrew and Nicole handy so they can tell you, hey, you did that wrong. Okay, so this is zoom.us. This is going to be where you schedule a lot of your meetings from. You can do it from the software on your computer, but it's really easy, a lot easier if you just go ahead and go to the website. So zoom.us, you're going to sign in, which I'm already signed in. You're going to start here. Sometimes it's good just to start looking at this little panel right here. This is your profile. This is where you can change your password, see what kind of licenses you have. See right here, I'm a licensed user. And the features, I have the ability to have a meeting of up to 1,000 people, and I have a webinar license of up to 500. Those numbers are very important. And one of the reasons why we make a point to have registration on our events that are going to be going through Zoom, so we can make sure that our licenses can handle the number of people that are going to be registering. So let's go ahead and look at meetings, scheduling a meeting and scheduling a webinar. And I feel like that's going to be the best place to really be able to break down some of the differences in meetings and webinars. So I clicked on meetings, and here you can see my list of meetings that I have scheduled. Right here, I'm going to click schedule a meeting. So this is where you start putting in information. I'm going to keep this as my meeting, but as you can see from the last page, I do like to title my meetings. It's really handy when you have a lot of meetings that you need to schedule. You can set up templates. So if you do the same kind of meeting quite a bit, say if you have a regular staff meeting and you want to make sure you have the same features, that's where you can set up a template. You can put your description in as well. I tend to skip that unless it's for a larger meeting. Here you're going to put in your date. You can click the little calendar here, and the calendar feature, this little calendar will come up. Set your time. Now, your time on your Zoom meetings, if you plan on inviting people to a meeting, like for example, this webinar, we started this webinar at 10 a.m., but I knew that I was going to be logging in at 9:30. Go ahead and set your meeting time for when you want people to join you, not for when you're going to log in, or you'll have some miscommunication with the people you're inviting to your meeting. And Zoom doesn't really care if you log in early. So that's not something you have to really worry about when scheduling. So you can go ahead and put in your start time, and then you put in how much time you're going to take. I do like to put in as close as I can to how much time it's going to take. But this, again, when you have a license, you have a limited meeting. You have a limited time you can meet in one meeting. So If you schedule a meeting for an hour and it ends up being 2 hours, that's going to be okay. You don't have to worry about that. Here you'll set your time zone. And if you have a reoccurring meeting, so if you have a staff meeting that happens every week, you can go ahead and set that reoccurring meeting as a reoccurring meeting. When you do that, it's really nice because every single time someone goes to that meeting, it's the same link. You can use the same exact link every single time. And that's nice because it just makes it easier to keep track from week to week. Registration, when you click registration required, this means that in order for somebody to go into this meeting, they have to register. And you can copy and paste kind of somebody else's registration information and send it to other people. But when they go in to join, they will have to register before they can come into the meeting, no matter what. So that's something to consider. If you have to have people register, then make sure everyone gets the same registration link and you invite them to register beforehand, because it can cause a little bit of trouble as people are logging in to your meeting if they're registering right when they're trying to log in. And so you can require that. I'm going to uncheck that for this. Schedule for, I can actually schedule for multiple people. And that's just because I run a Zoom account. I think we have about 60 to 70 licenses on this account. And so that's why I can schedule for some people, because I do schedule for people within my organization, within Rio Texas Conference. Meeting ID, generate automatically. That is my kind of default. What this means is there's a meeting ID you can use to join. And anytime you have a license, you kind of have a meeting ID that is open to you and saved just for you. And it's your kind of your special meeting ID. I only use that special meeting ID when I'm meeting with, let's say, my team here at the conference office. And it's a room that I want to just be able to just jump into to maybe test something. I'm always testing different features out that way. But generally speaking, I go ahead and have it generate automatically. Security, passcode. So here, when you click passcode, you can edit this passcode. So I like to put words in because something like Rio, Texas is a lot easier for people to remember and to type in. So I like to change it to words. That's kind of my preference there. It is nice to have a passcode where you can, but sometimes it's not totally necessary, but again, it is recommended. And then waiting room, I try to always have the waiting room open or checked, just because there are times where I go in and I'm playing with the feature, or maybe I'm checking my hair. That happens, and it's just nice to know that you're not going to have someone randomly jump into your meeting until you're ready for them. So I really like this feature. The only thing is if you have that feature on and you're running a meeting, make sure you watch your waiting room, because you have to let people in. And here in a little bit, I'm going to show you how to disable and enable the waiting room. So that if there's a point where you just say, okay, I'm ready for people to start coming in, you can just disable the waiting room. Video. So this feature right here, I like to start with video off. It's my preference. But some people really like to stay with it on. I have seen this weird kind of glitch thing happen where if I put meeting off for participants, that for some reason it makes me, it requires me to invite each and every person to turn on their video. But generally speaking, I just keep it off and let people turn on their video when they get in. Just because there are times where if someone's late for a meeting and they pop up into the meeting and you're in the middle of a discussion, it can be a little awkward for them and for everybody else. And so if you start with it off, then they can kind of turn their video on when they're ready. Audio, I always do both so that people have the option to call in if they need to. It's just a really great way to make sure people can connect to your meeting. And then meeting options, enable join before host. I only do this if I only do that if I have the waiting room on here, and I I think there's a good chance that people are going to join. But whenever I have this enabled join before host, I always have the waiting room on, just because you never know, and sometimes it can make someone else host. It's a good security feature to make sure you have that turned on. Mute participants upon entry. This is one of my favorite check boxes to keep checked, just because sometimes people start connecting to a meeting and then they walk off. And, I've heard some awkward things happen when people are kind of off camera. And so it's just nice to go ahead and have that muted. Only authenticated users can join. I never check this box. You just never know if every single person has a Zoom account, and it's a security feature that I never use. Breakout rooms pre-assigned. I'm going to say I've never gotten this to work the way I need it to ever. I will pre-assign breakout rooms, but I use Excel sheets, and I will show, we'll talk about breakout rooms later, and I'll talk to you about how I organize those Excel sheets, but I never tried to preload my breakout rooms because it's just never worked for me. And then automatically record meeting. This can be nice if you know that you have a meeting that you're going to need to be able to share. You can go ahead and save your recordings. Here it says on the local computer. That means the computer that you're currently using, or in the cloud. I like in the cloud a lot of times because sometimes I have a meeting that I'm recording and Andrew needs to grab that meeting and maybe make a few edits, cut the front and ends off of the videos, things like that. And that's just a really good way to make sure he gets the video and I don't have to upload it to something for him to download. So I'm a fan of in the cloud. Your Zoom account does have limited cloud space though. So you do have to look at that and kind of manage how many recordings you're saving. And then alternative hosts. Alternative hosts are great, but there's a big catch. You can only add alternative host as people who are in your organization. So for example, Andrew and Nicole are in my organization and I can set them up as alternative host. But let's say somebody from one of the churches here in South Texas, if I want them to be an alternative host, even if they have a license, I can't set them up as an alternative host in here because our accounts have to be connected. And then interpretation. I could do an entire Zoom class on just the interpretation feature. I will say it is easy to use. It's been just a blessing to be able to utilize this, especially in South Texas, where we want to make sure we are communicating information in both English and Spanish. And what's great is because it's through Zoom and so many of us are used to using Zoom in our everyday life, it actually makes it really easy for interpreters to join in and do that important work for us. So that is that's how to schedule a Zoom meeting. I now want to move over to webinar, and what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put test in front of this really fast, and I'm going to go ahead and move this to the 16th. No, I can't do that. I have a meeting on that day. Okay, 20th, because I'm going to do something to this later. Oh, if you check this enable language interpretation and you don't have a name in here, then then it will stop you from saving your meeting. If you know that you're going to need language interpretation, but you don't have your interpreter's email yet, all you do is you go ahead and save it without that checked. And then you can come back in and edit your meeting, which takes you to the same screen we were just in. And then you can go in and enable and add an email address. So it's just a little kind of a cheat. If you don't have all your information, like but you need to go ahead and open registration for your event, you can go ahead and do that. That's why sometimes I have meetings that I have, we know that are going to be 2 months in advance, but we want registration. We'll go ahead and create that meeting because we know what day it is, we know what time it is, and that's the big thing for registration. So we'll go ahead and set that up, open registration, and then I can go back to the meeting later and add in details. So we're going to go ahead and move to a webinar. So I'm going to go over to the side here, go to webinar. These are our webinars. Really quick, I want to show you a scheduled webinar. This is the webinar we're in right now. So you see here, I have my topic, and a lot of this is very similar to the meetings. It's just managing those few features that are a little bit different. So we have our date and time. This allows me to add it to calendars. Here's the webinar ID. I did go ahead and have a video for host and panelist on. Webinar options, Q&A. I mean, honestly, the Q&A option is why we're in a webinar today. I always have that enabled. You never know when you're gonna need to use it. And if you don't use it, it's not a big deal. Enable practice session. This right here is an amazing part of webinar. You and your panelists can log in and practice, and you're not broadcasting, you're not live. And that allows you to connect to one another, kind of make sure you go over the schedule and talk about some of the things you need to talk about before you allow people to enter into the room. Make webinar on demand. This gives you a link so you can share your webinar easily with other people, and automatically record webinar in the cloud. Webinars like this, we have a lot of people who register, realize they can't, something comes up, they can't attend live, and we always try to make every single one of our webinars available after the fact. And so we record on the cloud, and we also stream this directly to Facebook, and Facebook will save a copy of the webinar and make that available to people after the fact. So this is another part I want y'all to see here too. Panelist. This is how Andrew and Nicole are able to share their video and their audio. When you invite panelists, you know, when you first schedule your webinar, this is blank. You can come over here to edit, and this is where you add panelists. You put in their name, their email address, and right here, this option that says send invitation to all newly added panelists immediately. A wonderful thing to keep checked, because as soon as you add someone in, they're going to get an invitation so they can join your meeting. If you have a panelist that you invited, especially if you invited them, let's say 2 months in advance, I always take the time to go ahead and resend their invitation the morning of the webinar, just so I know that they're going to be able to get in, and it just makes things a little bit easier for them. And so to do that, you come right here to the resend button next to that person's name. So if, so I resent these, I could just resend them, it's just a click. I'll resend Andrew's and Nicole's, and just like that, they have the invitation in their inbox, it's ready for them, and it just makes it a lot easier for them to join. So I'm going to go ahead and move from there. Here, this is a really important place to take a look. So we have invite attendees. Here you can copy your invitation so that you can share that with people to register. But right here, see how it lets you know the size of your webinar? It's really convenient to have that right there, especially if you manage, 60, 70 accounts and forget who has what license, like I do sometimes. I know that I have a 500 attendee license, and I can look down here and see that 108 people registered for the webinar today. You want to watch those numbers. If your registered number goes above 500, and Zoom will allow more people than you can handle, your license can handle, register for your event. So it is something you want to watch. If more people register for your event than your license can handle, they will be allowed to register, and the first, let's say if your license is 100 people, the first 100 people in get to join, and everybody else is just kind of out of luck. So watching that, you can know, okay, now I need to go ahead and increase the capacity of my license. So those are the features that you need to look at for meetings and webinars. I just looked at my schedule. I'm a tad bit behind. So I do want to go ahead and move to the next part here. Let me pause just a second to see if there's anything else I need to cover. Both meetings and webinars have the ability to have polls, a polling feature inside the webinar and meeting. both webinar and meetings, you're going to schedule your meeting or you're going to schedule your webinar. And at this confirmation page, this is where you can do your polls. To do that, you'll just click add. And it's actually really nice. You can go in and just do one question at a time. And it's a feature that if you're interested in testing out, it's really easy to use. And I encourage everyone to check it out. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to move over to another computer. You cannot show your Zoom window when you're in Zoom. So in order to get around that, we've set up a video switcher and a second computer. So I can show y'all some features inside Zoom itself. So I've scheduled this meeting. I'm going to go ahead and start. Muting all of the things because having two Zoom meetings at the same time in the same window can cause a lot of really uncomfortable noises. So this is our Zoom meeting window. Right now you're in a Zoom webinar, so there are going to be some differences that you're going to see, but most people use Zoom meetings, so I'm going to go ahead and just focus on Zoom meetings for this. So you're going to see here that this is, we're going to start from here. It says unmute. If I wanted to turn on my microphone, I just click that. Start video, click it, there you go, and stop video. That'll allow you to turn your video on and off. Now, what's an important piece of these two buttons right here is this little arrow. If your microphone is not working, click that arrow and see this little window pops up. Most of the time, you're going to want this to say same as system. Same with speaker, same as system. If you have a special camera plugged in, I have a webcam that's plugged in right here, and it does have a microphone attached. So that's why I have this one selected. If you're on a laptop, a lot of times that's same as system as well. If you're not sure, honestly, it's not going to hurt to open this up and just to kind of click and test each thing. It's a very good way to kind of just to troubleshoot microphone issues you're having or speaker issues you're having. You can test and move to your phone audio. If, let's say, you're having issues talking or hearing, you can go ahead and switch to your cell phone. So in the same thing here with video, so you select a camera. I have the Pro webcam selected. If this was a laptop, it would probably have the laptop, the system laptop there, but this is actually a Mac Mini, so there's not a camera that comes with this, this computer. So, and another great thing about these two little arrows is it's a shortcut to our larger video settings. So if you click there, you can click video settings. And this is something, it's the same on a Mac as it is on Windows, because I'm using the Zoom program, and they're really very, very similar. So you can see now I have all of the settings are open here, and I can go from video settings that we were looking at or audio settings. Fun trick, if you're logging into a meeting and you want to kind of check to see what your camera looks like before you log in to a meeting and join a lot of people, you can go to your Zoom settings and you'll be able to just to kind of check your camera angle and things like that. I know some people who use that to refresh their lipstick, and I think that's a great idea. So when you're in here, this is where you're going to see a lot of settings. You can also come in here and change your camera, just like you can in the little up arrow. That's just, the up arrow is just kind of a shortcut. This will give you a little bit more information and more settings. So here, enable HD. You know, if your camera looks fine, I just wouldn't. If you have an HD camera, and you're really wanting to make sure that you have like the highest quality video, you can do that. But honestly, it's usually not necessary. Mirror my video. So I'm going to show you what happens here. So when you mirror your video, it kind of acts as like a mirror. But when you switch it, it switches the hand, and I have to do that with sometimes, because I connect a bunch of other things to this, I don't like to, I always like to keep mirror my video on. It just kind of is weird to me when I don't. You can adjust, it does help brighten it a little bit, but it doesn't replace good lighting. And so here, always display participants' name on their videos. That's nice if you always want to make sure their names are there. Turn off my video when joining a meeting. That is an option I have clicked, and I have because I like to turn on my video when I want my video on. That's just me. Always show video preview dialogue. That's personal choice. You can do however you want with that. And this right here, hide non-video participants. This is a wonderful, wonderful feature. If you have a meeting of people in it and you want to highlight certain people's videos, this is where you can go in and have everyone click this and then ask people to mute their video. So if you have 4 people you want to be able to see really well, you tell people about this feature and you have everyone mute their video. And when that happens, if anybody whose video is muted, they're instead of having their name up, they just kind of go away. And that can be great. Display up to 49 participants per screen. It basically just makes everyone's video smaller when you're in gallery view. And then audio, you can change your speaker where the sound's coming from. You can test your microphone here. You can see that this is a good way just to see, is my microphone working? And the fact that this is moving and that there's color, it definitely is working. I generally don't have anything automatically adjust my microphone volume. I'm not a fan, but that might be something that you like. And I do like this feature, press and hold space key to temporarily unmute. So really quick, I want to show a very important setting to everybody. You see this setting right here. So I'm in settings, share screen, enter full screen when a participant shares screen. If you've been in a Zoom meeting, I'm sure you have seen it happen. You might have had it happen when I shared my screen earlier. Someone shares their screen and suddenly it takes up your entire screen on your computer or your laptop. The windows that you had open are suddenly gone and you can't find anything and you're trying to click around and it just kind of messes up your kind of setup there and your mojo there. This is how you stop that from happening. So you want to go in and you want this unchecked. When this is unchecked, Zoom, the window is going to stay the same size it was. It's not going to go get bigger and you lose everything. So this is a really great option. And this option right here is one of my favorites as well, side-by-side mode. When someone shares a screen, you can do with side-by-side mode, you actually see their video and you see what they're sharing at the same time. These features are features that people have to change on their computers or their laptops or their devices. So there's not a way for us to change these settings in all of the meeting, on everybody's meeting. So if you're designing a meeting that really relies on these features, you do have to take the time to find a way to instruct everybody to make these setting changes. Chat, I would like to just kind of put a rumor to rest for chat. We have in meetings, you have the ability to privately message people. Host cannot see every single person's private messages. And when they save the chat later, they cannot save your private messages to someone other than themselves. So if you private message the host, okay, they're going to be able to see those, obviously, but they're not going to be able to see everyone else's private messages. That's a question I get a lot. The rest of these settings here, these are just preferences. So I just suggest taking the time to go through and read and just kind of decide how you want your chat experience to go. Okay, I'm going to look over at my schedule. I know we're running late. Apologize for that. Andrew, Nicole, do we have any questions we need to answer live?
Yes. There's 4 questions.
Okay. Go for it.
Gus asks, can we have both webinar and Zoom if we have multiple accounts, and what is the cost difference?
It depends on the size of your license. Obviously, 100-person license and 1,000-person license are going to be completely different costs. And if you're part of a nonprofit, if you're part of a church, you can get discounts on your Zoom prices if you go through TechSoup.org and register as a nonprofit. So all that to say, it's a really hard question to answer. If you have a Zoom meeting license and a Zoom webinar license, and they're on the same account and attached to the same person, you can't run a webinar and a meeting at the same time. I'm technically in a meeting on the second computer that's set up here, but I'm using that with a different account. It says my name on it, but that's because I put my name on it. So you can't do those two at the same time. And cost difference, again, it's really going to depend on your account. And I'd have to refer you to Zoom's pricing for that. Andrew, next question.
Let's see. Ed Self asks, if you make registration required and people want to register in advance to get out of the way before the event, do they just visit the Zoom meeting link, register, leave, and then come back to the same link when the meeting occurs?
Yes. And you know what? I really should have mentioned this. So one of y'all registered for this webinar. And one of the things I did, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. One of the things I did is I went into the webinar for this, and it works the same way for meetings or webinars. And I went down to the bottom. This is not the right. Oh, it's not letting me access. Oh, there it is. Just kidding. So right here, it says manage attendees. Sorry about that. If I go to view attendees, I can see names of the people who registered. But most importantly, I can resend invitations or the registration confirmation. You have to do it for every single page that you have. So I went page by page. I checked this check mark. So all of the check marks are selected, and I hit resend confirmation email. You cannot schedule that to happen automatically. I like to do that because especially for something that's scheduled for a little bit in advance, it just makes sure that people don't have to go searching for their link to join. And it's an easy way to help make sure that people can join, and you don't have a lot of emails of people asking, hey, I lost my link. So I hope that helps. Andrew?
I'm actually going to take the next two.
Okay.
So Connie asks, I see your invitation offers a call in via phone. I'm assuming this is for people who only want to call in and participate with audio only. Does this option, is it only available with a paid subscription? And then she mentioned that they have some people with bad internet or just want to participate via phone, like a conference call.
I believe the call-in feature is just for a paid account. Nicole or Andrew, do you know offhand for sure? I think it's just a paid account. So in the call, sorry, Andrew, I just saw you unmuted. Do you have an answer for that?
I don't know for sure off the top of my head.
Okay, can you Google that right fast? So the call-in feature is for people who don't have a good internet access, but it's also really handy for people, like if you know, oh, well, they have really good internet, I'm just not going to use that feature. I've had to call into a meeting because something came up and I had to go pick up my kid because it was raining and I didn't want him to walk home from school in the rain. And so I joined a meeting from my cell phone so I could go pick him up and I could be in the meeting, and then I could join from my laptop when I got back to my house. So it's just a really great feature that I always keep active because you just never know. Tech problems happen frequently. I'm sure all of you have experienced. Do you have the other question, Nicole?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Ed asked if you have participants that use the hide video feature under the video settings, does that essentially allow a Zoom meeting to function like a Zoom webinar?
It can. It really can. The trick with that is making sure all your participants know how to use that hide participants feature. And so I actually do work with Enneagram Worldwide, or the Narrative Enneagram, and help support some of their training. And we have set it up so that we need to be able to see one another. And oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot to mention this. Zoom meetings have breakout rooms where Zoom webinars don't. So we had to have that breakout room feature, but we wanted it to kind of function as a webinar. And once you have the meeting scheduled, you can't jump back and forth between the two. And so we use the hide non-video participants in order to make sure that we can kind of have it function as a webinar when we want it to. So in the meeting, we say, for those who are not going to be participating on this panel, can you please go ahead and mute your video now? And we've already taken the time to train our participants and let the participants know how to use the non-video feature, so that all they do is everybody starts stopping their video, and everyone disappears, and then it has that webinar feel. And that's a way you can get away with not having a webinar license, only paying for a Zoom license, and kind of keeping that feature of just having just a few people up on the main screen. Andrew, Nicole, do y'all have anything else?
We have one more question that just came through. Evan asked, can you pay for one webinar license experience versus a monthly subscription?
That's a good question. I think you have to pay monthly. I've never seen an option just to pay just one at a time. So I'm going to say monthly. I can Google that during our quick standing break, which is mostly in here to, one, give y'all a chance to stand, but also because I want to show y'all a cool thing that I like to do for break times. Anything else, Nicole or Andrew? I see Carolyn mentioned that a paid account only to use audio. So I'm guessing, Carolyn, that you mean that you do have to have a paid account just so people can join by audio only from cell phone.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to Google that, and Zoom's not really specific when it goes over the different account types.
Yeah, they can be a little bit vague sometimes, which is why we have to have trainings like this. But that's okay. All right, so what we're going to do is take a quick 2-minute walk around break. But before we do that, I want to show y'all how I like to do that when I'm in running meetings. I'm moving back to the other computer so y'all can see this process. I'm going to share my screen. And I actually have a my iPhone connected by cable. So I'm going to click that option, and I'm going to click share. Oh, good. My new computer wants me to grant access. See, this is why you practice these things, and I didn't. I apologize. Okay. That's fun. So we're going to do the 2-minute timer a different way, because that's not going to work. You know what? Let's all take a 2-minute break. And I'm going to set up a timer right now, and it'll be on when y'all get back, and then I'll tell you how I did that. I apologize for not practicing that better before we started. So we'll see you in about 2 minutes. Okay, so I hope y'all had a chance to stretch your legs really quick. So right here I have set up, I moved the webcam that I was using for on this computer, and I set up some greenery and a candle, and I used a timer on my phone to share, to do a countdown timer. I like, you can just plug in your computer to your phone, but not everyone has a phone they can use to set up as a timer. And you know, some people want to just use like a regular digital timer. This is a way to do a timer for breaks. So sometimes, you know, you have like a 15-minute break, or maybe 20-minute break, or even sometimes a 45-minute break if your gathering is a little longer. Having a timer up allows everybody to just kind of come check in and just see exactly how much time is left without having to worry about time zones. Is everyone's clock the same? If you say we're going to meet back, you know, 10 minutes before the top of the hour, if people's clocks can be a little bit different, sometimes not everyone can, it helps a lot. So that's all that is. And I'm going to pull this back some so y'all can see. I literally just have set up a box with the camera there. So that is a great way to do a timer. Put my webcam back up here. I see that Sue has another question here, and I want to go ahead and talk about that really quick before we move on. So Sue is saying that she's at a small church and they don't use Zoom enough to have an annual account, and she's asking if there's a way to pay for 1 month at a time or pay for extra minutes on a free account. There is not. They're going to charge you monthly. You could, you know, pay for a month and then cancel and take the card, you know, cancel the payment for the next month and kind of go back and forth. But if you were to go ahead and go through TechSoup, you're going to get a Zoom account at half the price. When you get a Zoom account at half the price, it makes it easier to go ahead and keep the account open. And what I've found is when you have that account and it stays open and it's something that you can just use whenever you need to, you find more reasons to use it. Being able to connect to Facebook and things like that, it gives you the option to have small group settings. If your church has like Sunday school, you could use, you know, one meeting to run 5 different Sunday school classes. And I'm going to show you how that can work and what that can look like. So it's with the 50% off, it does make it a little easier to pay for it. And there are just so many different ways you can use it. Okay. So I'm going to see if there are a few people who, if you have an extra device, a cell phone handy, something that you're not already logged into Zoom with, Nicole is going to copy and paste a meeting ID into the chat for me. And if you have, as many people as we can join that meeting, just turn off your video, turn off your audio. I just would like some people in there so we can play with breakout rooms, and I can show you how to do that. So if I could get, yeah, there it is. It's in the chat. If people can join in, I'm going to grab my cell phone and join in as well. We can still talk about breakout rooms without this, but this would just make it a little easier. So I'm going to give about a minute or two for people to join in if they can. Nicole, Andrew, is there another question that we can answer while we're allowing people to join in?
As of right now, we haven't had any new questions yet.
One just popped up in the chat.
Oh, add a background. Yes, we can do that. So when you're in the video, when you're looking at your Zoom window, you can go to your video, click the up arrow, go to video settings, or right here you see choose a virtual background. It's kind of your shortcut. And so background and filters, this allows you to go ahead and pick your different backgrounds. So I can go ahead and you have to download a package to do this, which is a new computer, so I haven't done that yet. So you just pick which background you want. You can click none. And then right here, this plus arrow, this is where you can go ahead and add, you can actually add a video background, or you can add an image that will go, that can go behind you like this one is here. You can, if you have a green screen set up, that does kind of make it a little smoother looking, but you don't have to have a green screen for this to work. There are computers that have, that don't have the technical specs needed in order to go ahead and sustain a visual background, a virtual background like this. It's one of those things you just have to kind of test it out, see if it works for you. Thank you for asking that. Why can I see the Zoom bar in my desktop? Zoom bar, are you talking about kind of this part of the Zoom bar down here at the bottom? If you, when someone's sharing a screen, that's sometimes just kind of, okay, yes. So sometimes it goes to the top. When you have something else sharing, or maybe if it depends on how you've, the size of your window, that can often change, and it just kind of like, and it is, I've never really figured out exactly why it decides to do that and when, but it'll sometimes pop up to the bottom, and it's one of those things you kind of play with. And you know, something else I've failed to share with you guys, which I feel like is kind of basic here, is the view. Sorry about that. Speaker view. It highlights the person who is speaking. In this case, you see it's Karen's name is up here. It's because she was the last person to share audio, and so I'm going to see the last person to who had audio shared. If Mark Krause here decided to say hi, his video would then be highlighted. And then gallery view allows you to see everybody's video and picture, or in this case, name. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move to talking about breakout rooms. Now, so one of the kind of cheats with this and ways to kind of maximize your use of your Zoom meeting license is to, one way to do this was like Sunday school classes. So I'm going to talk about this in reference to Sunday school, but obviously this could work if you're doing something like you have meetings at your church or at your organization, and you just need one license, but everybody needs to go to their own place. So we have our group here, and I want to break them out into rooms. We're going to pretend like this is Sunday school. So we're in Sunday school, and I need to make sure to set them out into their particular Sunday school classes. I don't want to just randomly throw people in a room. So I'm going to click manually, and I know I have 4 Sunday school classes. Okay, so I've set 4 here. I said manually, and it's telling me that'll be about 3 participants per room, but they're not going to break out evenly because not everybody's Sunday school class is evenly broken out. So I'm going to click create breakout rooms. When you click create breakout rooms, don't worry. Not everyone's going to suddenly be thrown into a room. All that happens is this opens up. That's kind of the scary part. So now we're going to go ahead and assign people. So the names are just breakout room 1, 2, 3. You can rename them if you want to. I kind of feel like it's a lot of work for not a lot of payoff. So I can come in here and I can rename, or I can go ahead and sort people into breakout rooms. When I create an Excel document, so I can organize people and know what breakout rooms they're going to need to go into, I always do that by first name. If I'm in a meeting, let's say if we were doing this webinar in meetings and I knew we were going to go into breakout rooms, I would have made sure to ask everybody to put to make sure that their name is correct in Zoom. Sometimes you run into something where maybe somebody doesn't want to share the name they registered with. And so I also give the option to share their nickname with the host, so they know how to set them out into breakout rooms. So let's just pretend That's one Sunday school class. Here's another Sunday school class. There's another one, and then everybody else goes into the other Sunday school class. Okay, so I've sorted everybody into my breakout room. I'm going to come here to options, and there's some really good options you want to click here. Move all participants into breakout rooms automatically is like the best checkbox. Just always check that. If you don't do that, what you're going to run into is people might not click the option to say move them into breakout rooms. And then you have people who are kind of stuck in this weird limbo place. But if you just check that, then everybody automatically moves into those rooms, and you don't have people trying to find the little window that popped up so they can click the button. And sometimes people are on iPhones or iPads or an Android phone or a laptop or a computer, and it's impossible to know exactly how all of those different things work. So just move everybody in there automatically. Allow participants to return to main session at any time. That is your choice. That could be something that you decide depending on your meeting. Breakout rooms close automatically after a blank number of minutes. So Sunday school only lasts 25 minutes. And so instead of having to watch the time, if I know I just need a 25-minute breakout room, I put that time in there. Not only because it just automatically closes it, but it has a nice little timer that's up at the top and counts down, so people know how much time they have left. Countdown after closing breakout room. So once the breakout room is closing, you have a certain amount of time left before everyone's forced back into that main room. I usually keep this at about 30 seconds. If it's something where time is really crunched, I move that to 15. So I'm going to move that to 50. I'm going to move it to 10 for now, because I am going to send people to breakout rooms just so y'all can see. Oh, look, I noticed Andrew, he's not sorted. So if you're looking at rooms and you already sorted this room at the beginning of your meeting, and you're going to be moving people into breakout rooms in like 2 or 3 minutes, I always take the time to come and click the blue little one of these numbers, and it's any one, and I can see who hasn't been sorted. So I see Andrew hasn't been sorted. I checked, and yeah, actually he needs to go ahead and go to breakout room 2 for Sunday school class. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in there. Now I know everyone's sorted, and I can open all rooms. I'm about to do that, but really quick, I want to show you, if for some reason you needed to add a room, that's all you'll have to do is just click add a room, and here it is at the bottom. I'm going to assign myself to that. And just so y'all can see what it looks like on this side to move to a breakout room. Okay, I'm also going to come here, and I'm going to close breakout rooms after 1 minute, because we do not need to spend 20 minutes in breakout rooms. Okay, so when it's time to move people to breakout rooms, I let people know, just because it's kind of weird just to suddenly be thrown into a breakout room. So I usually just say something like, all right, here we go. So here we go. Okay, so this is the part I really want y'all to see. Everyone's disappearing here. And if you look, we can see that everyone is joined. I like to scroll through. Okay, so right here, oh, there we go. They had not joined yet. And so, oh, Andrew needs help. I'm going to be right there, Andrew. So the first thing I do when I send to breakout rooms is I look and see. Once everybody's name is white like this, you can see they've joined the breakout room. Everything's good. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for people to get into a breakout room, because maybe it's their internet or something like that. Andrew, who's a wonderful assistant director and knows that this is something I'm going to want to do, has asked for help in breakout room 2. So as a host, so this person right here, that's my cell phone, just so I want to make sure everyone knows that I'm still in the main room. I'm still in the main room here. So as the host, I'm not going to just sort myself in a breakout room accidentally. My name there is my cell phone. So I'm going to go ahead and join this breakout room so you can see what it looks like to move in there when you get a question for help. Okay, so now I'm in this breakout room. I can see the participants here. I can ask questions. I can unmute my video and microphone, and I can talk to the group, see what's going on. And okay, great. I helped solve the issue. I go ahead and leave the room. It's very important right here to click leave breakout room, not leave meeting or end meeting for all, because I don't. So just click the blue one, leave breakout room. You don't want to accidentally end your meeting. So that's how you would go to a breakout room if somebody's asking you for help. The other way to do it is I can literally just click here and just join. And yes, I can join that breakout room. And that's what it looks like to move to the breakout room. I can be in this room, talk to them. Okay, yes, everything's good. I fixed their issue. And again, leave breakout room and go back to the main room. I basically call this area the main room. So it just makes it easier to kind of wrap your mind around what's happening in the main room and what's happening in breakout rooms. If you have a conversation that needs to happen that needs to remain private and confidential, do not have it in the main room. Anybody can accidentally join. If somebody's computer was to disconnect and then they were to connect to the meeting again, they're going to connect and go right to the main room. If you're discussing something confidential, you don't want them to jump in and at that point. So send those people to a breakout room. And when you have breakout rooms going on, it is a lot easier if you have someone who's dedicated to supporting Zoom and your breakout rooms. So they're not trying to participate and run a meeting at the same time and make sure all the breakout rooms are running at the same time. I've done it. It is very possible to do, but it's just a lot easier if you have someone who's just dedicated to doing that. So I'm going to close all the rooms. Oh, right here, you see how, I see Andrew's not joined. Monica's not joined. Those are things you want to look at and look for so you can see if there's any problems going on. So I'm going to go ahead and close all the rooms. All breakout rooms will close in 9, and there's the countdown timer. This countdown timer will, once that's off, it'll just pull people right back into the room. So I can now tell that everybody has joined and they're back here in the main room. So really quick, I'm going to recreate rooms and I'm going to do an automatic, I'm going to have them auto sort. This just means they're just going to randomly put people in a room. So right here, this tells you how many rooms and how many participants. A lot of times, you want a group of like 3 to 4. And so here, just click up until you see the number of how many participants you want in each room. It says automatically here, recreate all rooms. Again, that's not going to send everybody to the rooms. That's just creating the rooms. So now that these rooms are created, I can close this if I know, okay, I'm going to have some people go to breakout rooms randomly in 20 minutes. I'm the person who's going to go ahead and create those rooms and just leave that done so I know that there's less that I have to do later. And then when I come back here and open it back up, we see that they're still sorted exactly like I had it when I closed it. This time I'm going to send a message. I'm going to put 3 minutes in here, do a 3-minute breakout room. Okay, I'm looking here, I'm checking, okay, there's nobody that is unsorted. So I'm going to go ahead and open all rooms. So that is how you would randomly sort people. And again, you can watch people move to their rooms and make sure everyone's getting there. We have one person who hasn't joined. If that happens, don't worry. Usually it just takes a few seconds for some computers to join. And now I want to send a message to everybody. So right here, I'm going to click broadcast a message to all. If you have small groups and you're having small group discussion, and let's say for the first 10 minutes, they're supposed to discuss question A, and then the next 10 minutes is question B, you can send messages like move to question B. Or, it's sometimes it's messages like it is time to switch. You can send as many messages as you want, or you can just say hello. When you hit broadcast, that comes up It shows up as a message right here in the top middle part of their window. And people who are on iPhones or phones or tablets, you know, they will all be able to see, they'll be able to all see those messages. So again, I'm going to go ahead and close this. And everybody's coming back again. Great. Thank you very much to all of our participants. You can go ahead and leave if you want to. When I have people leaving, let's say if you're gonna have maybe you have some teachers and the Zoom host, when it's time to close a meeting, I like to enable the waiting room again. This means that if anyone tried to rejoin, they'd be in the waiting room before I have them come back in. If you ever want to disable the waiting room, the security right here is where you're going to do that. I always allow people to chat and rename themselves where I can. If you don't want people to be able to unmute themselves, that's where you're going to do that. But when you go ahead and enable a waiting room, when you're closing out a meeting, it means people can't rejoin. If you need to have a conversation with, let's say, the host and the teacher, this gives you a chance to debrief without having people watch you debrief, which can be nice. Let's see, let me check my time really fast. Okay, we're doing good on time. Do we have any other questions? I know I'm covering a lot really fast. Can breakout rooms with participants be reused? Yes, you can. Breakout rooms don't have administrators and individual people who are kind of like the smaller host of that breakout room. If that's something you would like to, if that's something you'd like to be able to do, you'd have to kind of sort that out with the people beforehand, and then consider that as you're creating your breakout rooms, like in an Excel sheet, so that you can know who to move to what room. You can't move people in and out of a waiting room into a breakout room. So you have to have them in the meeting. So the waiting room isn't quite in the meeting yet. It's just kind of a pre-meeting. Loretta, I'm really sorry that the information was fuzzy and small. Zoom does have a lot of really great tutorials. They can sometimes be a little bit vague, but on some of this stuff, if you have a question, when I need to learn something about Zoom, go to a Google search and I type, how do I blank in Zoom? You know, how do I sort breakout rooms in Zoom? And the Zoom websites often have like even images so that you can see exactly what each button you're going to press will look like. The host is the person, the host is going to be the person who has the ability to do the most in a webinar or a Zoom meeting. Right now for this gathering, we have Andrew as our host, because Andrew has connected this webinar to Facebook. And so he had to have the host powers to be able to do that. So I'm a co-host. As a co-host, I can still go into questions and answers and all those different things. But the host is going to have the most control and ability. I just saw somebody had jumped in the waiting room for that other meeting. I was going to click over right fast and let y'all see what that looked like. I see Evan is asking about Zoom rooms. Zoom rooms are very cool. We have, let me think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set up here at our conference office. Zoom rooms are basically conference rooms, and you set up a Zoom room to work in a certain room. And so instead of joining in from a computer, you need a computer, but instead of joining in from individual laptops, you can set it up so that entire room can join. It takes a lot of equipment. It takes a special Zoom license to do that. If that is something people are interested in or want to ask some more specific questions, please feel free to email me, and I can kind of help you talk through some of those things, because it's involved, but they're amazing. We use them quite a bit. Can breakout rooms with participants be reused? Yes, okay. You can reuse a breakout room. So if you send people to a breakout room and then you do some more things in the main room, and then you want to send them to the same group with this in the same breakout group, you can use that as many times as you want. So if you want them to have the same partners all day, you can do that. Can we have a reoccurring meeting with breakout rooms? No. If you meet for Sunday school every Sunday morning, you can't, it won't automatically carry that over. Now, if any of y'all figure out how to make the kind of auto sort function work with Zoom, where you can upload a CVS file and then it automatically sorts all your breakout rooms for you, let me know. From what I understand, that works a lot better when you register for that event, which is maybe not necessarily what you'd want to do for like Sunday school, have people register for Sunday school each week. But so that would be the only way I could think of to do that. And if you figure it out, please let me know. You're welcome. Really fast, I want to just say something about, well, sorry, Nicole, did you have a question that you wanted to share? Go ahead.
Yes, there's a question in the chat, and I actually thought it'd be something good to discuss too. So Pat asked, she says she joins Zoom on her iPhone to meetings hosted by her church. She wants to know how she puts her name on Zoom account. Does she have to sign up for the free account? And then also kind of piggyback off of that, once you're in a Zoom meeting, how would you change your name? Zoom
yes. That is a great question that I really should have answered already. So thank you, Pat, for bringing that up. I'm going to move back to the computer over here. The easiest way to change your name is, so these panels can open up and close. So if you ever can't find them, just come down here and click on participants or chat. So in the participants panel, you can go and highlight over your name, and there's a more button here, and you can click rename. For the profile picture, you can put a picture in, but if you want your picture to stay, you really want to sign up for a free account. And it's just kind of nice to be able to have a profile picture up. If you are a host, so let me see. If you're a host, you can actually do more like to other participants. So if I wanted to mute somebody out, I would be able to mute them from here. If you mute someone's microphone, they will be able to unmute their microphone. If you mute someone's video, they are not allowed to unmute it unless you ask them to. And that would also happen right here with this more. And Andrew, can you join this meeting again for me right fast? Thank you.
Yep.
I'll show you. We'll mute Andrew. You can come down here and mute all people. And here it says allow participants to unmute themselves. If you need everyone to stop talking and you're just going to mute everybody and not let them unmute themselves, you can click that check mark. I try not to do that, but so you can see Andrew's actually in the waiting room here. And so I'm going to admit him. You can remove people from meetings, but if you do that, then they are not going to be able to come back. So I have actually never done that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop his video. And so now we can't see Andrew anymore. And now if I want him to come back and show his video, I'm going to click more and go ask to start video. And it doesn't just turn on his video. You can't just turn on someone's video whenever you want to. It's more requesting them to mute or to start their video. And then here I can ask him to unmute and something will pop up on his screen and he can click it and he can unmute Sometimes if you have somebody who's having trouble finding their unmute button and they're not sure exactly how to unmute, or they're struggling with that, asking someone to unmute is a great way for that just to pop up on their screen and just kind of help them out. I've had that happen a few times. So yeah, I see there's more in the chat. Make sure. Yeah, so the countdown timer, you can use what I showed, what I had is an app that I have on my phone, and I have it also on my iPad that I can use from either one. If you use a video, if you use a webcam, you can use the webcam to just show a timer. And, you know, I think just a regular digital timer that you would use in the kitchen would work. I just think the countdown feature is the important part. So really, I think you can get creative there and kind of use what you have. I mean, use the resources you have on hand. The only thing I think that wouldn't work in that case would be one of those, the timers that click, because you don't get a clear idea of exactly how much time is left. So really, I think your imagination is the only limit there. Andrew, Nicole, do we have any other questions?
Nope, you've answered them all.
So I just want to say, just for a few minutes, just the role of a Zoom host. When you're a Zoom host, it's almost like inviting people to your home or to your office. There's a hospitality piece to it that I feel like is really important. You know, keeping track, if you have a meeting or a training where you know there's going to be 42 participants and you're Zoom host, and suddenly you realize there's only 41 participants, you know, as a Zoom host, are they having issues? Are there, you know, you're going to get messages saying, well, I have, you know, my internet's been spotty because there's a storm. So if I disappear, you know, knowing those things, checking in on those things, and being open to being that person who's just going to kind of help people with those technical issues, or just almost just holding space for the fact that people are going to struggle with Zoom. You know, we have someone here who this is her very first time to be in a Zoom meeting. You know, to me, that's an honor and a privilege to be able to be part of hosting that for her and trying to make this as easy as an experience as I can. And that's part of what a host is, a Zoom host. There's a need to give space for things to go wrong. There's a need to be there ready to just answer questions, receive lots of private messages. I had a Zoom meeting this week where I joked about, and I actually sent someone a private message because I just said, I just wanted to complete my private message bingo because I had so many private messages going on from people. And some of it was help, some of it was asking me questions about work. But giving space for that, because when you see the chat going, it can get frustrating. It's just easy to sometimes feel a little overwhelmed. And then the other piece of it is giving, and I mentioned this, but giving space for things to go wrong, giving space for whoever you're hosting a video for, Zoom for. So if I'm hosting for, when I work with the Narrative Enneagram, there's usually 2 teachers that I'm helping support. So whether they log in or not, I always start that meeting early, just so they can come in and ask questions. Maybe there's something that changed. Maybe nothing changed. Maybe I'm going to sit there in that Zoom meeting early for 20 minutes. And there was no actual real need for me to be there, but giving space for things to go wrong, giving space for people to need you is important. Because the reality is, you know, technology never goes exactly the way you want it to. And it's frustrating. And if someone's, you know, trying to get into training, and your kindness and gentleness and your hospitality can just help them connect to that Zoom meeting and connect to the people they're connecting to, then I think that's just a beautiful gift you can give people. And then finally, about hosting, open your meetings early. I like to open meetings at least 10 minutes early. If it's a larger gathering, sometimes even 15 to 20 minutes. It can feel kind of awkward sometimes to sit in an empty meeting, maybe to not have anything going on, or just to sit there and greet people and there's, 6 people in the room with you, and you're waiting for a 40-person meeting. It gives a great opportunity for people to connect, to be able to check their technology. Sometimes, if it's the first time you're meeting, you want to get connected just to make sure everything's set. I'm that person. I like to make sure everything's kind of set and okay, everything's working good. And then I stop and I take a breath. And so I always like to give space for other people to do that too. So it's something that I know there's a lot, I've heard a lot of people say, but I just don't want to do that. I just don't want to deal with the meeting until it's time for the meeting. Open your meetings early, your gatherings early. If it's just a regular work meeting, okay, if that starts at 10, jump in at 10. But when you're gathering people and you need a reason to have like a real host, and you really have to think about that hospitality, really put the time and effort into it, because it's going to change the quality of your gathering. And the whole point of all of this is connection. We want to connect to people and we want to give space for other people to connect to one another. So I really hope that everybody has learned a lot. And if there's anything that you take from this, I really hope it's to look at your hosting duties, look at this using Zoom to help connect people as a ministry, as a beautiful way to facilitate connection. So thank you. We do have 3 minutes left and I'm seeing questions. So I'm good with staying here for the next, 10, 15 minutes and just answering questions. If you need to go, you're welcome to go ahead and take off. I'll go ahead and say this is the end of the webinar. If you have lingering questions, please stay. I have everything set up here, so I'll try to answer any questions that I can. So thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Nicole. This wouldn't have been possible without y'all's support and y'all's awesome hospitality and Zoom hosting abilities. So thank you. So I see we have a question about, can we schedule a Zoom meeting from our Google Calendar? Yes, you can. You can also do that from Outlook as well. And it's one of my favorite things. That's how I schedule all my just kind of regular meetings. It's great because then you just check your calendar and you can find your link there. I will say the thing I've learned about that is it's really important to make sure all your time and your date is set before you link to it, because because if you don't, then you have to go in and delete the meeting. So if that meeting changes, you have to go delete the first meeting, and then you have to and then you have to do it again. So schedule all your details first and then link the Zoom meeting. So if that meeting might change, I don't add a Zoom meeting until that time has been confirmed, and then I'll add the Zoom. Jill is asking, as a participant, when would you use the login versus just clicking the meeting link? Honestly, it's up to you. If you're just participating, if you don't log into Zoom, it's okay. You don't have to. They'll ask you what your name is, and you can put that in. And you can type it in even from any computer. It's just really your preferences, all those settings we went through in your Zoom client, that gets saved into your Zoom profile. So it just kind of helps make your Zoom experience a little more consistent when you log in. And if you're already logged in and you type in the information versus you click the meeting link, it should be the same as long as you're logged in. I have noticed if you're logged in on a browser from one Zoom account and you're logged into Zoom, the program on your computer with a different Zoom account, when you click the link, it's going to be on whatever account your browser is Zoom is logged into. So for example, Nicole has 2 Zoom accounts that she manages, And so if she was logged in as Nicole on her computer and was logged in as Mission Field Ministries on her browser, if she clicked a link, it would log her into the Zoom meeting as Mission Field Ministries. So that's just that's, if you see that happening, that's can be why that happens. And then as host, you must always log in. Yes. If you schedule a meeting where there's not a waiting room and you enable join before host, you technically don't have to. And I've accidentally had that happen. I scheduled a Stephen ministry meeting and I forgot my Stephen ministry meeting. And that meeting was actually set up without, where they could join it without me, and there was no waiting room. And so they had the whole meeting without me having to log in. So it is possible. Just be careful doing that, because that leaves it open to where just anyone can join. See, Ed is asking, if you record a meeting in the cloud and make it available for public viewing, can someone visit the original Zoom meeting link to access that recording? I don't suggest it. It's because I would say no. There might be a way to kind of make it happen, but really your best bet is going to be putting that video on YouTube. That way you can control access to it, and you don't have to, because if you don't want people to access that recording and you made it accessible and then suddenly you don't want it to be accessible, you don't, if that happens, it's just a lot easier to deal with that if you're on YouTube than you have people accessing your cloud. Arlene is asking how I log folks. I'm guessing how we log in, how we know who has shown up to the meeting. If you have a meeting that you're registering for, there's a whole, we could do a whole nother in-depth Zoom class on some of the more, some of the other features. There are reports. So you can actually pull a report to see who registered and who showed up, and those things. And that's found, you go to your browser and go to zoom.us, and you can find that in Zoom there. If you don't have registration, it's probably not going to log who showed up. So what I do is I keep notes. I only made 2 notes today, but I keep notes that this first part is what minutes, the minutes, and then this is how many people were logged in at that time. So I just keep track of how many people, you know, when we first started, we were at 59 people. A little bit into it, we were at 61 people, and that's just on Zoom. And so I just keep a count that way. Mark, are you saying that you've let people view the original, the Zoom recording in the cloud? I don't know if Mark's still here. Let's see. No, you know, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood. Do we have any other questions? I really appreciate everyone coming in today. Oh, you're welcome, Jill. Jill is one of the few people who have called me with Zoom questions she stumped me. Couldn't answer the question, which to me just means there's more room to grow and learn. So that's exciting.
We don't have any other questions showing right now.
Okay.
Unless Andrew has any on Facebook.
Nope, none on Facebook.
Awesome. Let's see if I have any. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Feel free to email us and reach out if you'll have any other questions. You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome, Ed. Bye. Andrew, do you want to go ahead and